In a galaxy far, far away, somehow, Vindictus returned. A reimagining of Vindictus was announced out of the blue, along with a pre-alpha test schedule no less. The new title, Vindictus Defying Fate, was wonderful news, not only for the chance to revisit Vindictus, but also because Vindictus was one of the online games I thought would greatly benefit as a single-player game. After trying the pre-alpha, I was satisfied with what was shown, and listed up some feedback. So, considering this is a pre-alpha, most of it could be pre-alpha jank that is eventually going to be polished off anyways. So, I'm going to present 3 major feedback first, which are least likely to be pre-alpha jank, then follow up with the others. Decide on what kind of game Defying Fate is. In other words, make up your mind on how Souls-like Defying Fate is going to be. My first impression going into the pre-alpha, besides the obvious Souls-like influence, was how Defying Fate seemed uncommitted between sticking to its origin, which was more Monster Hunter-like, or leaning towards becoming a Souls-like, creating what felt like an empty gap between two inspirations. This wasn't a huge issue during the early simple stages featured in the pre-alpha, but this indecisiveness will bring forth negative impact as gameplay for Defying Fate advances. There needs to be a clear direction regarding what Defying Fate's identity is. An identity that will serve to inform future decisions such as combat balancing, because even something simple as FIONA's guard cancelling normal attacks or not can reach a different conclusion, depending on whether Defying Fate will fully commit into turning into a Souls-like or staying true to its origin, since minute yet significant details like the pace of combat differs depending on the inspiration. Another option would be to minimize influence of other titles and fill the gap with something unique to Defying Fate. Be mindful of pattern readability when designing monsters. I was having a good time clearing Northern Ruins, which was a challenging but fun experience. An experience that quickly soured in Frozen Valley. This was mainly due to the beefed up bodies and stiff stubby motions of the redesigned kobolds, presenting patterns with horrendous readability. It's not that I couldn't beat them, the patterns were easy enough to eventually overcome with some trial and error. But the poor readability of their motions made for an unpleasant learning curve. It's like reading bad handwriting. I can eventually understand what's written, but not before unnecessarily suffering, which doesn't add to the experience. This issue wasn't present in OG kobolds with their gangly limbs and comedically telegraphed attacks. Even OG Imulok averted the readability issue with over-exaggerated motions, despite his armor creating a silhouette similar to a stocky model. Show some restraint if you pursue microtransactions. Though the official stance on this is nothing concrete on business model, the costume tab in the pre-alpha presents microtransactions as the likely scenario. So, this feedback goes 2 ways. First, don't get overly greedy. People have become less patient with predatory microtransactions these days, so even newly made avatars would face an uphill battle, and reselling avatars airlifted from OG Vindictus in this climate has even less chance to fly. Hell, even Chinese mobile games are starting to tone down or deviate from the Genshin Impact model that's been industry standard for some time now. Showing some restraint in monetization would go a long way for the game's popularity and lifespan. Second, don't bother with the volume of avatars. Just don't. It won't be worth the negative impact to Defying Fate's image. It's not that I'm against earth-shaking TNAs. In fact, I'd welcome it as a customization option. The issue is putting it behind a paywall, a pointless endeavor on a single-player game where mods are prevalent. You can try all you want, but your government-regulated ass will not be able to compete with modders with no restraint, and I mean absolutely no restraint. Reduce the walking distance between battles. There's too much empty space between each battle, dragging down the pace of gameplay. It would be a shame to cut down on an environment that no doubt took a lot of work, but the expansive maps of empty space doesn't add anything to player experience. In fact, it detracts from it, so much so that even adding an out-of-combat speed buff wasn't enough to make traversal not boring in OG Vindictus. Of course, another approach would be to add mechanics that make traversal fun, but that would be an entire game concept in itself, and I don't think that's an area Defying Fate would want to, nor has the luxury to explore. Reduce the time frame for inputs queuing up as a delayed follow-up. What I mean by this is, when I see an enemy pattern mid-animation and quickly press the roll button twice in panic, I don't want to see Fiona forced to do a second roll literally seconds after the input was done. Overall, the inputs of Defying Fate felt clunky or unresponsive, and I'm not talking about animation commitment. Monster Hunter has plenty of animation commitment, but never felt like if Hunter is refusing to react to my inputs when it should. Tighter controls is an area I hope to see significant improvement as Defying Fate goes through development. Resync regular monsters. I can't even think of any recommendations here. Just resync them. If these guys are the easiest regular monsters of Defying Fate, I dread to imagine how frustrating later monsters will be like. At the least, if you're going to make them annoying, then limit the AI to have only one monster be annoying at a given moment. Or provide players with an option that can be used to handle multiple monsters at once. Lan's animations when his weapons are put away looks jank, especially the running animation. His overall animations don't feel as good as OG Vindictus and even compares poorly against Defying Fate Fiona's animations. The hitboxes for Lan and Fiona's attacks suck. I'm 99% sure this is pre-alpha jank since this has been a consistent issue for new characters on OG Vindictus test server. And last, add more active skills that interact with each character's core mechanics. Lan's active skills that can proc Gliding Fury is a good start. We need more of those. Active skills are the most straightforward approach for providing additional depth to combat in its current iteration. I look forward to seeing more engaging active skills that aren't starved out of SP by the lockdown skills or clunkily forced into a character's combat mechanic. And that concludes my feedback. Despite the picture I may have drawn, I had a good time with the pre-alpha and look forward to seeing how Vindictus Defying Fate improves. And as a pre-alpha, it's expected to require a lot of work to be done, which makes me glad to see the team seeking feedback through this test. All in all, a work in progress that I'm anticipating to see more of.